I've spent my time, my career, dealing with the mode of the web. And so as an instructional technologist, what I did is, at a time, historically, I came in to say, here's how pedagogies worked. I've also was trained as a professor. Here's where we are with the web and what that looks like in terms of the 90s and the emergence of Web 2.0 in 2004. And the real kind of intersection point was, how do we use the web to think critically and also think anew about what we do with teaching and learning? And I think we've been there pretty solidly for the last 12 years. Not always good, still kind of, I think, hamstrung by some of the systems we've built, learning management system or the VLE. But in terms of new environments or new modes, I mean, I still personally believe that one of the modes that's greatly underexplored, greatly kind of impoverished in some ways by the way in which higher ed thinks about delivery of content, is that they avoid any kind of real interaction. So I think one of the modes that is still greatly lacking in higher ed, and thinking about the web for higher ed, which is how I think about this stuff, is how do you actually engage a community online in some real authentic discussion around teaching and learning, around a topic that's not just a kind of MOOC-like delivery mechanism, but rather is a real space where faculty and students feel embedded and engaged by it. Now, there are ways to do that online. It's not saying it hasn't been done, but I don't think it's been widely adopted or engaged. You know, we've kind of come away with the fact that that's fine, deliver the content, whatever they get out of it's fine, they'll take the paper, they'll do the oral exam, it's done. And I don't think we really think about what these spaces mean for students in terms of inhabiting them, in terms of critically engaging what they mean. And I think we're at a time in history where our lack as higher education really interrogating this web space is coming back to bite us in the ass in some real ways. I mean, think about what we're having with social media and questions of nuclear war being bandied around on Twitter as if it's nothing. I mean, 7 or 8 years ago, talking about Twitter as a kind of mode of education was considered ridiculous, was considered infantile. And now faculty, politicians, policymakers are all trying to wrap their head around this stuff. And I think higher ed, in terms of thinking through modes of teaching and learning, has failed in engaging the modes that have kind of defined the culture around us. And there's going to be new ones. I'm not a virtual reality expert. I'm not an augmented reality expert. But how can these things not affect the way in which we understand our reality? And I think at some basic point, whatever the mode is we're interrogating, we're not doing a very good job of interrogating how this media, how these technologies are changing our conception of reality. And I think that's, for me, a kind of strange moment to find ourselves in as a community, as a culture. And I struggle with it. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure. Like, I can't say here, like, hey, you know, the next mode, I still don't think we figured out the web. And I think we're kind of struggling and limping along, just trying to get people to kind of interrogate where their news is coming from, who's giving it to them, how are corporations and their kind of control of our data is informing, you know, the world at large. And I really think that, for me, the mode of the web and its import in how the world is seen and understood by our students, we've only just begun to really look at that deeply. So I would still say the web is the mode, and the methods, I'm listening. I'm all ears for people who are coming at it in some critical, thoughtful